I hope those slides put you in the mood and let you feel a little bit of the energy, the family environment, the festive environment that we have here in our Santa Monica Farmers Market. Good afternoon. My name is Phyllis Conkle, and I am on the program committee with the Santa Monica Conservancy. I'm also proud to be the co-chair of Plates in Places, which is, or has been, we're done today, our week-long celebration of Santa Monica's food legacy. Today we have the second of two panels that we are presenting free to you to learn more about what is the food legacy of Santa Monica. And today we're discussing the history of our world famous farmers market. I want to thank first our sponsor for today, Downtown Santa Monica Incorporated, 3rd Street Promenade Business Improvement District. Thank you so much for underwriting and making this possible for us to present to everyone today. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator who's leading a panel today. Her name is Laura Avery. Laura managed the Santa Monica Farmers Market for 36 years, from 1982 to 2018. During that time, she raised it up to be including 140 different California farmers and 20,000 patrons weekly visiting our farmers markets. She, during that time, also developed the farmers market salad bar in all of the Santa Monica, Malibu Unified School Districts. So bringing that special fresh produce to the children in our community. So now I'd like to introduce Laura and her guests for today. Here is Laura.
Thank you, Phyllis. Hello, panelists. Hello, my friends. I'm happy to be here today with some longtime friends and colleagues. We just need them to turn on the video. Hi, Rich. Barbara Spencer.
Hi, Laura.
Hi. And then Peter Schaner. He's
Hello,
coming
Laura.
up soon. Hi, Peter
Rich,
Schaner.
Barbara.
Hi, Peter.
We're all friends. So I just briefly want to introduce everybody. I know that the viewers have probably looked at the bios that have been posted on the Santa Monica Conservancy website. Peter Schaner, he grew up on a farm in Orange County in Placentia. It was a small farm. They had 7 acres of oranges and 1,500 chickens. But a small farm could not find, there were no commercial outlets that were profitable for small farms. So the farm closed down, but Peter moved to Valley Center in 1984 to start his own farm and to start his family. He began to grow more diversified crops. He began at the Wednesday Santa Monica Market in 1986. And he's well known today for a wide array of vegetables and fruit, a lot of citrus fruit. And 4 of his children are now employed part-time or full-time at Schaner Farms, Schaner Family Farms, coming to the farmers markets and doing markets and helping Peter farm. Chef Rich Mead, he has a 30-year distinguished culinary history. He's been a chef owner of Canyon Restaurant in Anaheim Hills, of 17th Cafe in Santa Monica, and Sage Restaurants in Orange County as well. He is currently the chef at Rogers Farmhouse at Rogers Gardens, and which is a beautiful place, beautiful venue for food and enjoying just nature's bounty. He also is a founding chef for Green Feast, which is an annual farm dinner that is held at the Ecology Center in San Juan Capistrano. It's an excellent way that farmers and chefs are able to come together to promote causes that they believe in, conservation and food-related causes. And then Barbara Spencer. Barbara is a professional cellist, and she met her husband, Bill, on a visit to Paso Robles once, and they got married and they founded their farm, Windrose Farm, in 1990. Barbara would continue to commute back and forth to LA for her cello studio recording gigs, but she finally moved up to the farm full-time in 1995. And Windrose Farm is famous for their varieties of heirloom tomatoes, specialty greens, and over 45 varieties of heirloom apples. So without further ado, I want to continue the conversation that we all were starting with a few minutes ago before this recording started. And let's just discuss, each one of you, if we could just go down the line and just say, how did you come to find out about the Santa Monica Farmers Market? When did you enter the Santa Monica Farmers Market? And what are your earliest memories? And I guess we can start with, I see the left to right, we can start with Rich.
Oh, about 1992, we opened 17th Street Cafe probably in 89 or 88. 92, I went to New York. I went to that trip, I went to Union Square Market. And it was August, and I started eating tomatoes, and I just had the epiphany of, just produce was incredible. And all along in my other jobs, I'd had partners, I'd had friends that would bring fish. They introduced me to fishermen, other people growing vegetables. But when I got back, I went to the Santa Monica Farmers Market because I was working in Santa Monica and I had heard of it. And I went there and I immediately this was fantastic, but it's just different when I wasn't writing checks at the time. And so it was a little harder to talk my partner into spending a little more money on this produce. So 97, I was trying to find my own space. In the end, in 97, I went to Newport Beach, up in a restaurant called Stage. I went to farmers markets down here in Orange County, and the experience wasn't the same as going to Santa Monica. People weren't as used to dealing with a restaurant, with a chef. I could talk to people about what they would have next week, and I wouldn't necessarily get it. So in 98, the next year, early in the year, I was going through just trying to figure it all out. And I decided I'll drive up to Santa Monica. And I drove up there and parked in the parking structure and started walking around, ran into Joe Miller, started talking to him, started looking, introduced myself to as many farmers as I could, got phone numbers, came back the next week, started buying a little bit of produce, came back the next week, bought a little more, started serving like a little farmers market special menu on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And pretty soon the realization was, if you're going to do this, you're going to commit, you have to do it every week. And that's when I just decided it's so, you get so inspired when you come, and it's such a relaxing day. And even though the drive was 2 hours up and 2 hours back, what I walked away with was so much more, it was so worth it, and that was my beginning. And that's how it started.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Barbara, how about you?
Well, we had known about the Santa Monica market from the time we started the farm. We always joke about the fact that for us, doing the markets and the restaurants was so great because we love to eat really well, and connecting and meeting the guys that were the chefs at the restaurants that we liked was always a fabulous thing. So for us, because you met Bill through the Farmers Market Advisory Committee, so we kind of knew you, and Bill kind of introduced us to you. And so for us, it was kind of a gradual thing because we came in with the nursery plants first, and then the dry beans, and then we gradually added on more of the products that we have now. And I think a lot of the choices of what we've grown had to do with the reactions and the interplay with the chefs and what kind of things people would be interested in growing. So we were in a place where we could be flexible in developing what our product list was in response to the chefs, because they were like so much fun to talk to and meet at the market. So basically, a lot of it was definitely restaurant driven.
Right, even from the beginning. And you say you began in when did you begin at the market?
Probably the end of the 90s or 2000. I think it was.
Okay. Yeah, chefs had become a really big thing by 1999. I remember we had our first Chef Appreciation Day. And Mary Ann Carpenter told me, you know, these chefs, there's so many chefs shopping now. And I was kind of like, okay, well, what are we going to do? But they really found farmers that they spent a lot of money with, and the farmers really appreciated them. And that's when that whole farmer chef mutual, you know, love affair started. Was like, I'm going to say, you're absolutely right, like mid to late 90s, and it culminated in
I think one thing about it is that we all work hard. Farmers do and chefs do. And I think there's an understanding between us of what the other guy is going through. And like when Rich was talking about making sure that when you order something, you get it the next week and things like that, the kind of mutual responsibility and cooperation, like you mentioned before, of our responsibility to them and their responsibility back to us, as well as the friendships we've all made. I mean, these are people that we go to their weddings, they come to our celebrations. And so that kind of family thing is huge amongst all of us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Peter, how about you?
We started in Santa Monica about 1986, and we were a very young family at the time, and we were trying to, our whole farming operation was geared toward direct sales to the people through the farmers markets. And back when we started, we weren't even aware of chefs or restaurants, and there were very few, if any, chefs or restaurants going to the market when I started in the early 80s, and we really geared toward the consumer. And I started in Santa Monica because Santa Monica was always a market for us farmers that we wanted to get into, and it had a long waiting list. And Laura, she didn't control that waiting list, but she read that waiting list and addressed it accordingly. And she needed a Laura. One thing about Laura at Santa Monica Farmers Market, she she was responsible for the very fine quality and the wide variety of produce that we had there available for the people of Santa Monica. And she needed mushrooms, and it was hard to get a mushroom farmer in there at the market at that time in the early 80s. And a neighbor of mine grew mushrooms down here in San Diego, but he didn't have time or energy to go to Santa Monica. So Laura asked me or them if you have a guy to do it. So I was the lucky one that would bring the mushrooms to her market. And I lucked out. That was how I got in, and we just I had a variety of my things, and we slowly incorporated them into our.
I forgot about that. Where is that mushroom farmer now?
He is still in existence, struggling to stay in existence here in Escondido, California, Mountain Mill Mushroom. He doesn't do any direct marketing, but he's still in business. Now Laura has, Santa Monica Market has mushroom farmers that come to the market themselves. And so we have bought mushrooms for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
But the really important thing about the markets was like Barbara referred to, the people that came, and we became a family. And a neat thing about that is that the chefs came later on, which was great, but they also accepted the local people as part of their family too. You know, they cared about the people that were buying things too. The chefs would come to the market and interact with the customers and talking to them, and vice versa. The customers would ask the chefs, "What are you having this week?" And it was a very, very family-oriented environment of good quality food. Yeah.
It's interesting, Peter, the timeline with the chefs, because we started to talk about that a little bit. And I wonder if you can describe the early, what we call the table customers. I mean, who were they? Who were those people?
Well, in the early 80s, we had there was a lot of, at the farmers market, the immigrant communities are the best supporters of farmers markets in the early days, because a lot of those communities, that's the type of shopping that they would do, that they were used to, that they were brought up when their grandparents or their parents, they did that type of shopping in their countries that they came from. So we had strong, international groups that would come through there, and Orientals, Persians, Mexicans, and other people would see them and share in that experience, and that's how a lot of the people would do it. And
yeah,
plus,
I think there were a lot of extended families. I know that a lot of Iranians were there, and they were shopping for the extended family, and the women would shop, and then the men would drive up the alley in the Mercedes, and the women would load all their big bags of oranges, like 5 25-pound bags of oranges, because they're feeding extended families.
yeah, and then too, we had the advantage of UCLA being there, and they brought people from other parts of the country and other parts of the world, and they would come and participate in that shopping and experience. And these were also people that knew good eating, knew good food, and knew where to get it.
Right, they were used to it. They were used to getting it that way. Right.
And then I don't know when it all started, but maybe toward the late 80s, Nancy Silverton would come, and David Wynn, another chef, would come, and they were just like the regular people. You didn't know them. They would just buy more than the regular people would.
Right.
And then they shared their experiences, and they would ask us to, like Barbara said, to grow different things for them and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that whole community of talking about the immigrant customers that were just regular, the people that came in, but that also connected into the chefs as well, as far as encouraging us all to get much more diverse and much more ethnic in the things that we grew. And then there's the whole thing of having it relate to what kind of climate we're in, because you have such diverse climates with all your farmers. That
You got the microclimates all over the state.
All over the state, because what do you have? Like almost like a 250-mile radius going around the market, which gives, what was the line? Almost everything you want to eat somewhere can be grown within that area around the market, and makes it available for everybody else to share and learn about. And that whole educational thing is huge.
Right. And it's ingredients like the long lost, like when you see somebody walk up and go, oh, I haven't had, like purple Thai basil. I haven't tasted this in years, or this reminds me of my childhood. That must be a wonderful experience for you.
People at the market were very happy to share their experiences, or they would ask, how do you use that? Or what do you do with this? And then they would try it.
Yeah,
right.
Different things.
And Chef Rich, you must have found stuff that you couldn't have found anywhere else.
You can't even begin to, when you went to the market, it was so much fun. It was so exciting. And I would buy things that I had no idea what to do with. And when I went back, I wasn't necessarily going online and looking up all these different things to figure out what it was. So you would ask the farmer. I used to follow around and see what the different chef might be doing. And then you'd ask somebody, hey, what's this guy going to do with it? Maybe you could learn that way. You would talk to the people that were buying things. And so in the same sense that the person who was buying might tell Peter or Barbara, wow, this is something I saw when I was younger, or where I grew up, I would listen to that, or I might talk to them. But it's the colors, it's the sound. It's such a wonderful place just to go and hang out. And it was so interesting for me because the value of a vegetable, it was something I was trying. I believe that there, it created a whole different kind of meal on your plate, and it was so much fun. And I mean, it's so hard to express because it changed the way I cooked, and it changed the way the people that came into my restaurant ate. And in Santa Monica, I felt like the ability of the farmers to sell to these restaurants enabled them to grow more different things than they would normally grow, because all the restaurants would buy them for them. And it enabled the people to see such a wider amount of different vegetables.
I think you all learn from each other. I know, because I've talked to some farmers, they go to the Cal Polys and they go to the ag schools and they learn how to farm. And Peter one of your sons, Peter, and then Jerry Rutiz and a bunch of people who went to Cal Poly. And it's kind of like the same old thing. This many pesticides and this many pounds of fertilizers equals this much, you know, and they're cranking out this flavorless value, you know, no nutritional value. And then you're out in the world and it's like, well, now what am I going to do? I mean, I want to grow food and I want to be a farmer, but I can't farm like this. And and then so Peter, or, Barbara, talk about that. I mean, Barbara, you were a city girl and then you became a farmer, and your husband Bill is a rancher, more or less. But getting back to like what the meaning of farming is and why do you do it, and how does it bring you joy? It's a lot of work. If I'm not mistaken, there's a lot of work involved too.
Yeah, there's a lot of work. And again, having Bill as my partner was huge, because as a rancher, he knew how to use equipment. He knew how to do irrigation. He knows how to repair things. And that was just like the MasterCard ad, priceless. Totally priceless. But I'm chemically sensitive, so we did not have any choice in how we would farm. So we had to farm organically. And I think one of the things that I see that's so beautiful is the fact that more and more farmers at the markets are going pesticide and herbicide free. They're not using tons of chemicals anymore, because they've discovered the fact of how different it tastes. There's a whole different taste to it. And so we know what practices different farmers use in the market, and they do really clean practices, and more are getting on board on that, and therefore everything tastes. Part of the reason,
a lot of that is consumer driven. Consumers are just saying, I don't want that. I remember in 1989, there was an ALAR, which is a growth regulator, which they sprayed. It was on the cover of Time or Newsweek magazine. And they found out they were using it on apples in Washington State, and it made them stay on the tree longer, so harvesting was more uniform, and everybody got so scared. And so shelves were emptied of apples. There was no place to get apples but the farmer's market, and people came to the farmers and they're like, wait, what? Now, how do you grow that again? And then people it's when people advocate in their own self-interest, like, I want to be healthy and I want this, where do I find it? And we had a lot of new customers come as a result of that ALAR scandal.
Remember when
it was national news.
When spinach became
right,
the contamination, and I remember I kept serving it at the restaurant, and everybody kept asking, and I could tell them where I was getting it, how they were growing it. I remember talking to Bill Coleman about what kind of, he used manure, but he used the horse manure, not a cow manure, the difference in the stomachs of the horse. Anyway, then you want me to go back to the restaurant and talk to people, and I was able to show them what I was doing, and it enabled them to feel comfortable when they were eating it. You could celebrate the idea that exactly what you're saying, Barbara, is, that's what the difference is you guys care, right? The farmer cares. The farmer needs this land. The farmer needs it's a different deal than these big agricultural corporations or companies.
And the return on you get you get $1 for $1 worth of produce. You don't get 12 cents, for $1 worth of produce. But Peter, I think one of your sons actually went off the reservation and went to work for, dare I say, one of the big ag companies, didn't he? And then he came back?
No, he actually is working for the big electric company. But, we went to the big ag schools, and you learn big ag practices, and a lot of the big ag practices is big ag marketing too. And so obviously, Barbara, we don't do big ag marketing, definitely. And like Barbara, we have 8 children, and we raised them on the farm, and so we are all chemically sensitive, and so we already knew that we could grow things without chemicals. And another thing that's really important about the farmers market is that the taste of the produce that we bring, not only is it chemical-free taste, but also the ripeness. We don't have to store it on the tree and mass harvest it. We pick it when it's ripe, and you know it's going to be eaten within a week, and it's not going to be stored for 3 weeks before it is shipped out to be eaten. And so with that, there's a there is a passion. Of course, you have to be in farming. You have to be passionate about it. Like to be a chef, you have to be passionate about it, because
Right.
nobody'd work those crazy hours if they weren't passionate about it. But you share that passion with your customers, and your customers are sharing their passion with you, and so it's very gratifying, and it helps you keep going. And then you can explain blemishes on your fruit, and you could use the good taste as one of the rewards for it, and it becomes very evident to your customers. And like Barbara and myself, who we care about our kids and ourselves, we also care about our customers, and so we're going to see them week after week after week, and we want to give them the best that we can, and that's
Right.
a neat experience for everybody, I think.
I just want to take a brief pause here. Now, we found some historic sort of old school black and white photos of the early days of the farmers market. We just kind of want to run those by real quick. The Santa Monica Conservancy did a good job of digging up these photos. So we just want to run those real quick as a quick montage. These were taken probably right around the first year the market was open. So that would be 1981. The market opened on July 15th, 1981. These are photos from the past. Maybe you'll recognize a customer. And this is so interesting. This is the poster that they made, the city of Santa Monica. It's a city-run market they made for opening day. Look at those hours, noon till 6. And if you'll notice, there are bananas and a pineapple in that picture. And this was back in the day when people thought this is what a farmer's market is. You can get bananas and pineapples and asparagus and tomatoes and peaches and watermelons all at the same time. So it's just fun to see this. And the woman in the picture, her name is Ida Butcher, and she was a teacher at First Presbyterian Elementary School, which is right there on 2nd Street, Peter. It's your neighbor right there on 2nd Street, Barbara's too. And Adina, who's putting together this panel, her mom worked with Ida back in the day, and Adina has never seen this picture. So a wonderful farmer's market, full circuit, reconnect, bringing the world closer together. I just love that. But that picture cracks me up. Yeah. So I guess not too many familiar faces, but I wish we could see some of the prices. But anyway, to get back, is that Scott Peacock?
Sure looks like it.
Anybody?
It is. It's gotta
I
be,
don't know.
yes.
Those are plums though, so I don't know. Are those plums?
No,
I don't know what he's
It
done.
still could be Scott.
Could
Because
be
that
Scott.
hat and the
The
glasses.
hat and the kind of, yeah, could be. Oh geez, all the way. Yeah. And and look at all the senior citizens. I mean, look at the clientele. You see these people, they're out there shopping, they're going to go home and make a fabulous meal.
The beauty of this is it can be the simplest meal with this wonderful product to use, and it just makes the meal that much better. And it also it shows that you love what you're doing, you love the people you're cooking for.
And you're going to take the time to shop, and it was funny. The market opened on a Wednesday, and though for 10 years, from 1981 to 1991, the Wednesday market was the only market. And then a bunch of people said, well, hey, we work, we can't shop there. So we didn't open our second market until 1991, our Saturday market. And we tried to make it, we were going to have an all organic market, but there just weren't enough organic, pure certified organic farmers. But it took us 10 years to open our second market to really, feed the demand that we had created through doing this. But as far as sort of the multiplier effect, you know, the things you could sell that you couldn't sell before, the things you can't sell commercially, you know, the little tiny, I remember a farmer telling me that a chef asked them, hey, can you grow me some 4-inch fennel? I want to put little tiny baby fennels on my plate. And the farmers are like, you know what? I thinned that anyway. I was just throwing it away because I was thinning it. I'll tell you what, I'll plant twice as much fennel. I'll thin it, I'll sell some to you, and then I'll grow more, and then I'll have even more. And so it's sort of like this whole beautiful virtuous circle of, hey, I need that, and hey, I can make that happen. Do you guys have any stories or recollections about that kind of thing?
Well, I think the thinning of things and selling small stuff, we've all probably been through some of that. And I can remember one time we had some interns growing out some Romanesco broccoli and cauliflower, excuse me. And so it had started to bolt. And there was enough to make a couple of cases of it. And either somebody from Jelena or someone else grabbed it because it was perfect, all the little things broken off by themselves. So there's so many times since then that you see people basically selling like the baby broccolis and things like that, or things that can be used at different stages of the plant's life cycle.
Right.
Be it the baby into the regular and into something that's blooming out. All the times we sell, like we wouldn't worry about trying to grow cilantro because of our heat, but no, we can grow cilantro flowers.
Right. Because they bolt because they're too hot or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And then they flower, and people would say, well, bring me, bouquets of that. And so there was a whole new area of product at that stage of the plant's life that would never, ever be thought about. Kale blossom and things like that. So just, it just opens up a whole window of harvesting through the cycle of a plant that we would have never thought about.
Right. Peter, do you have anything that you came up with that was a happy accident?
Things that was kind of unique for us in the farming and for the farmers market is like, well, for example, green garlic. We could, instead of letting the garlic come to its full maturity, we pull it early, and then I think the farmer instructed the people how to use it, and then the chefs how to use it. And it allowed the farmer to have a longer harvest time for his field and made it more productive. And then like Barbara said, then some of the things that went to flowers, instead of just disking them up, you would take the flowers, and people would buy the flowers for eating them, or they would even buy them for decoration. And so it helped everything. And on our farm here, I tell my kids that our only limitation here on our farm is their imagination, and that's the thing. You could, like your cilantro, it's good when it's cilantro, but it's still good when the flowers. And so you have a lot of chefs that are asking for specific flowers, arugula flower and the onion blossoms and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like to remember, I think you all remember Paul Schrade. He was Nancy Silverton's sort of, wingman, running buddy, sidekick, ride or die buddy. He used to come every single week with Nancy Silverton, and he went to he was a foodie, and he used to go to food, classes in Italy. And I think the story goes, he came back with some Cavallonero seeds in his pocket. And because I like to think that the Santa Monica Farmers Market introduced Cavallonero to LA, the black kale, the Tuscan kale. And I think he came back with a handful of seeds, and I don't know if he gave it to Bill Coleman or somebody. And so, this whole, the start of the heirloom, we don't remember a time when there weren't heirloom tomatoes and melons and apples and greens. And now it's just sort of like, there's nothing else.
Yeah. And what he brought back and gave to us was agretti.
Agretti.
Yes.
Did that ever catch on? Explain what agretti is. What is that seaweedy stuff, right?
Yeah, it's just a short window, but it's a great one and a perfect timing when early in the end of spring into summer, but he definitely did that one for some of us. So yeah.
Right.
You-
Right.
I remember getting the Molinaro from Bill Coleman. I remember Marianne Carpenter, she had some kind of white Spanish pole bean or something. I remember getting these things that people had brought seeds back to these guys. And I remember Bill used to show me all kinds of stuff I had never seen before. And then it's just, for me, the whole market it's just so much fun because you learn so much. And at the time before COVID, we could taste. And I used to love to go and just taste things and taste. You taste things like green beans, whatever, but it was memories that you might never buy the agretti. I love the agretti, but it was so funny at the beginning. I had no idea, but it was crunchy. It was great.
And you could take it back and you could like get creative with it and think, oh, maybe I should try this sometime. But then you say, but then it won't be there next week, maybe, or maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Well, they're getting it. People have gotten better about the things that are, because we used to think, okay, if we can't give it to you for 2 months, we can't do it. But people have gotten a little better about that thing. But the one thing about talking about that is the fact that there are chefs and guys who would come to the market that actually you could talking about tasting, you could do a blind taste test with them and they would tell you what farm it came from. They would tell the effect of the soil and the water and the climate on a product. So he would be able to tell something that came off either our farm or Romy's farm, and they would be so different in flavor because of difference in climate and water and soil, the total different taste profile. And there were guys that could tell you, like Evan Funky is one of the ones that can do that. You could probably run a perfect blind test with Evan, and I think Rich can do the same thing and tell you whose farm that is.
Rich, can you do that?
I don't know if I could do that, but I do know that what was fun was he used to buy vegetables from one farmer and then go back and create one dish from that farm. And it was all about, it was the simpatico, right? It was the Tawara. And it was just, all these things are just, over the years, there were so many things I learned. Alex Weiser gave me something one time, and I remember taking it back to the restaurant, and I stuck it on a shelf, and I said, like about a week later or 10 days later, I go, oh yeah, I remember this thing. And I started making something and I went, man, this is the greatest thing. And I ran back to the market on Wednesday and I go, Alex, I want to buy blah, 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 and Alex is like, oh, I won't have it again for another year. And I just had one row I was growing and I started laughing. But a year later, or whenever he grew it again, I was so excited. I couldn't wait. I brought it back and I started using it, but it was this market was there are so many different things that it's all about. But one of them is, it's just the excitement, and everybody around you, as far as the chefs and stuff, and the restaurant people, they're excited about being there. And that's, to me, is you go to these things and it's like-minded people. It's the farmer. Their people are fired up. It's a different feel. And I've been to lots of markets, but Santa Monica it's different.
Well, and from the very beginning, I'm a city girl. I'm not a farmer, but from the very beginning, when the direct marketing program began, it was signed into California Code of Regulations under Jerry Brown's first administration over the, emphatic objections of the commercial shipping industries and the grocery stores themselves, because it was easier for them to have a one size fits all, same size, same shape, same ripeness, longer shelf life. Everything was so uniform, so much perfectly good fruit. The so-called seconds or culls were being thrown away. There was just nowhere for them to sell these things. And so farmers markets were able to, be a home for not 100% perfect produce, but perfectly good produce. And that's been as we talk more and more about food access and food deserts and, nutrition, getting this food to people, food that is grown, by farmers, especially small farmers, getting more of that food to people has been so important for just health of the planet. With, the new awareness of regenerative agriculture and the ability of the soil to provide all the nutrients. Every single thing we need in our body is in healthy soil, but our soil isn't healthy because of conventional farming. I'm going off a little here on my soil health, advocacy, train, but It's true. And you farmers, you small farmers, you that value the taste and the aroma and the taste, the nutrition, the aroma, and the flavor are the last things that develop in a healthy plant. So much of our produce is picked immature, so it doesn't have flavor, taste, or nutrition. And that's how we're feeding this country. So the farmers markets, they're actually very small. A very small percentage of people get a primary, their primary food from a farmer's market, but more and more and more consumers are driving this. Farmers respond, consumers demand more, restaurants make it delicious and beautiful. And so this is just hopefully going to be a cycle. I mean, the Farmers Santa Monica is entering its 40th year of operation this year. It's just sort of mind-blowing to think it's been 40 years. Three generations too. My kids, my grandkids, we're all farmers market customers. Peter's, your third generation, your dad farmed, you farm, your kids farm. You got grandkids, Peter, they're going to be farming.
I hope so. And the thing
Generation 4.
Yeah, Laura, you alluded to the fact that the farmers markets were set into play in 1976. And it was a big reason was because the small family farm was becoming extinct.
Right.
It was going out of business, and that reality is still prevalent today. It is still a struggle for the small family farm to stay in existence. It's we don't have the political backing or the financial backing as a lot of other things do, but we have the backing of the consumer. The backing of our neighbors. And now the backing of good chefs that demand, or help support the small family farm to help keep them in business. And we need. That's what I'm concerned about.
So yeah. I found my soil man.
Hi, Bill.
He was in the so I brought Bill in. And I think one of the things that we think about on our farm is the fact that from the time we started, which was converting land, it was just conventional alfalfa. The whole thing of every year we see new varieties of birds and things, just the habitat that gets created so that you have all these beneficials and all these things going on in this incredibly diverse world around us, just because we did stop using any pesticides and herbicides, and we just use compost and some simple fish and kelp. And that's basically what we use on the farm. And therefore, all the creatures now, as Bill talks about it, it's an oasis. We have an oasis and they all come around. So there's a balance to it.
And the deer and the critters and the varmints and the pests. So how much of your crop are you willing to give to them? I mean, how much that's for you. I'm keeping this. What is your zen? What is your balance on that?
It doesn't end up that much a lot of the time. I mean, the problem is birds on the fruit, like stone fruit and things, when there's moments when there's not a lot to eat, they kind of can go after it.
Yeah, the best metaphor came from when President Clinton had a delegation come in. They wanted to know why small farmers didn't get crop insurance. And finally, this Kansas City farmer is wandering around, and I'm showing him this crop, that crop, the next crop, blah, blah, blah. And finally, he starts stuttering. He says, that you're self-insured. That means that all the eggs aren't in one basket. One year, something's going to be devastated by X, Y, or Z. You've got something else to back you up. And that's kind of the logic of a diversified farm. And that's what's missing in our corporate world.
Right. Well, we're hoping that, again, consumers, just from consumer action, we can start changing that. We can start reclaiming our soil and our right to have healthy food. I mean, there's 50 minerals in the soil that we can only access through plant roots, through photosynthesis. Fertilizers don't provide nutrition. They help the plant grow, but there's no nutrition there. So we're really working toward everything you farmers do and that you chefs make so delicious. This is like, it's your taste buds. I remember the first time I tasted a fresh cabbage, and it was peppery and sweet at the same time. And I thought, I have never eaten a cabbage like this before, just a cabbage. And on and on and on.
A fresh potato.
They talk about all the kids at school that hate vegetables. And it's because they ate really terrible, ancient commercial vegetables, and you give them the real thing, and they go, oh, I'd like to eat this. It's just because
Right.
it's so totally different from what they've been
Right.
doing. And like people, again, like properly raised chickens and things like that, as opposed to commercial meat, that's not even recognizable.
Right. So Rich, are you have your restaurant, I'm sure Roger, the farmhouse is doing well, and you still make that trek up to Santa Monica, or are you one of those guys that lets the produce companies bring it to you?
No, I still go. I try and grab people to go with me so I can get in the carpool lane. But
Right.
what was very nice at this restaurant for years in Orange County, I tried to get my bartenders to go up there, and I was trying to show them what was going on with cocktails. And I brought up my bar manager, this guy Anthony, and we walked the market, and all of a sudden everybody started pulling out stuff that I'd never tasted. There were things that they would never give me to taste that they gave him to taste. And some of that I started tasting it, and it helped me, understand different things. And our cocktail program is really wonderful, and it all stems from our trips to the market. But I do want to say, it's like for years, I mean, what Bill and Barbara had this lamb, and I would eat the lamb, and all of a sudden I was like, my God, this was some of the best lamb I've ever had. And then Peter, would always have this citrus and stuff, but all of this, you walk around and you taste things. But it was when I first had a Weiser potato years and years ago, and then Bill and Barbara grew potatoes. A fresh potato is like, it blows your mind. And then no one understands it. They're used to going to the grocery store. They don't have any idea what you're talking about. It's so funny when you get something fresh. It's the texture. It's so incredible that, and beyond it, it's good for you. But the best part is, like, the hardest part right now, I would say, all the stone fruit is fantastic. All the citrus is fantastic this year. I mean, and I'm so worried about next year because of the water. But I would say Peter had these wonderful tangerines, and it's just, I can't even get over, like, all the fruit, the berries, everything is so wonderful this year. And it's so hard to think about what's going to happen next year.
So Peter, Barbara, what is the water situation out there? Is it the fires, the overplanting, the overproduction, everything? Finally, now it's all starting to get real?
I think it's been there, done that. It's just our Southern California weather pattern. We're farming in a desert, and some years there'll be plenty, and some years we have drought. And there again, thanks to our diversification, we are able to weather through it, I think, difficultly, but a lot better than other places. Like for me, I do have assorted citrus and avocado trees that need water and need to stay alive, but I also grow vegetables. And so in severe drought seasons, I could grow less vegetables or no vegetables, so that I'll have water to keep the trees alive for the future. And and yes, we're all going to suffer because of lack of product and stuff like that. But I think that's also part of the game, part of the way for us to be conscious and aware of our fragile environment here, and to appreciate it and work with it to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
Also, too, with lack of water, less water, we might have less fruits and vegetables, but the stuff that we do have should taste better.
A lot of questions are coming up on the chat, and they're all asking, what can we do to help? How can we help? I mean, other than, forming a super PAC and lobbying and changing all the farming in the country to, regenerative. What ideas do you have for how we can all move ahead together, consumers and farmers together, to address these existential challenges?
One thing that they could help is obviously they could support us at the farmers market, but no. The thing on the water issue, we take water for granted, and not so much Barbara and myself, but and the chefs, they have to use water to clean the product. But like when we go out to a hotel, you don't have to take a bath or a long shower just because the water is free. You know,
Right.
just simple things like that.
Mhm.
You know, yeah, it's a luxury and it feels great, but you know, farmers have to stop growing things so that people could take longer showers and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
And that's the thing that's neat about us at the farmers market and our great customers is we're able to enlighten people on simple little things like this that we take for granted that
Mhm.
do affect us directly, but affects them indirectly and very directly also.
Have you had to raise your prices because of your costs have gone up?
That's
I know you don't want to.
that's a difficult challenge there, and but the drought, that's one thing that drought makes it easier for us to do, is to raise the prices, because if we just raise our prices because of all of our costs going up like it does for everybody else, it's hard for people to understand. But when you have to raise your price because of water issues, you know, people could relate to that, and it gives us a chance to explain a way that why we have to raise our prices in a way that they could understand. And you know, yes, maybe our prices are higher than they are at Walmart, but what the people get for the price that they pay I think our prices are very, very competitive or low.
Mhm.
You know, the quality that they get, and the farmer, you know, there's a lot of work involved, and you're dedicated to the farm. You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it because you care about what you do. You care about your product, and you care about the people that eat your product.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, and I think that the economy of scale that we have with small farms, I think all you farmers, Barbara and Peter and most of our farmers, they figured out how much to grow and how much to sell and how much they can make and how much they need. So it's kind of bringing it all back down to a more manageable, sensible, you know, it's not just about free money or, you know, I'm going to go in debt or I wait for a payment for something. It's just like you're able to, the important thing is that you get the money you need to keep farming. Because if we think about what if all you small farmers are gone, what is left to eat? That's the scariest thought of all.
And another important thing about the economics of our whole situation here is when we grow things and we have an overabundance of things, and there again, our family of consumers, and especially the chefs, they come and say, you know, if I have too much green garlic, I tell Rich, and he'll change his menu to use more of it. And so, you know, they really help us out a lot.
Mhm.
And so you're able to give the customer a good array of stuff. And even if you overplant or you have too much, you know, your chefs are there to fill in for you too.
Right, and Rich, you support the what is it called? This in San Juan Capistrano. Why can't I think of the name?
Ecology
Yeah,
Center.
the Ecology Center. Is that something that's like a raising awareness about these issues, and it reaches a wide variety of people?
They've grown bigger and bigger, and they now have about 25 acres they're farming on. As part of what's happening is just food is changing. I mean, people and food, it's exciting, it's fun, and people are starting to look at it, and at, you know, restaurants, you can see it. Hopefully at the farmers market, you know, to an extent you can see it. And the Ecology Center, you're talking about, you know, saving water. You're talking about how can I, you know, create a yard or whatever it is to save water. How can I grow plants? That was the idea behind it. One thing I want to point out real quick is if I wanted to buy food from my produce company or from a meat company or whoever I buy from, I would pay much less than I pay when I go to the farmer's market. But the difference in the product itself is so incredible. It's so hard to, I mean, you could just taste it. And for me, the hardest part was at the beginning when I started buying into what I was trying to do. Sometimes you talk about if I'm only cooking for myself, then it's not really smart because I'm trying to make money in a restaurant or even break even. But over time, you know, someone would come in and like a beet. So many people, I ate canned beets when I was a kid. Whenever you ate these things and you go, oh, beets, and I'd had a beet salad or something, and you try and offer somebody the beet salad when you were talking to them at the table. So sometimes we would go back because we were roasting the beets and peeling them and cutting them up or whatever, and I'd go back and bring some beets out, and people were blown away. It was just so funny because it's the difference, and until you experience these things, you'll never know. And that's the neatest part now is so many restaurants and so many people, and there are the TV shows, there's the Food Network, whatever it is, it has brought more awareness to food. And, you know, I'm busy all the time. I mean, you know, this is like, I got old and this is the busiest restaurant I've ever owned.
That's so great. Actually, Rich, you're looking younger. It's making you look younger, I think. So we only have a few minutes left, you guys. Obviously, we could go on. We got just a few minutes. Can we just do a real quick sort of round table? Any last thoughts, starting with Bill and Barbara?
One of the things that I think about is when you're talking about what's going to happen to change the big picture. They've done tests and studies on just what a difference it makes if everybody grew something at home in their yard, on their patio, or everything else, just what a reduction that would make in fuel cost and the amount of fossil fuels and chemicals and pesticides used. And they actually say it makes a huge valid difference. So the more we can encourage our customers to grow some of their stuff themselves, and again, when we're trying to get other communities where there are no access to really good food, just encouraging them to grow things themselves.
Right. Yeah, cuts down on the transportation costs, and you grow your own, and then you're just feeding yourself better too in the long run. Peter, what about you?
Well, there's a lot of points that I want to keep going on with, but one shout out that I want to bring is everybody listening has heard this name and knows this name and probably knows this person, but it's Evan Kleinman. And she was a chef at one time, a very, very good chef. And she was one of the first chefs that came to the farmer's market. And she was one of the first chefs that encouraged me to growing different things. And you talk about, you know, the tomatoes, you know, Barbara knows the weird tomatoes that she wanted and stuff like that, and the agretti and stuff like that. But, you know, she and I don't know, the farmers market, she's with slow foods and stuff like that. She cares about the people of LA, the farmers of LA, and the chefs of LA, you know. And, you know, I'm concerned about farmers that are taking our place. I'm so happy to see Bill and Barbara have a great farmer taking their place at the market, and we need to facilitate ways for the young people to get in here. I was a young person at one time, and you know, how can we facilitate it? You know, I have my youngest son's at San Luis Obispo now in agriculture, and I'm trying to tell him, how could we get young farmers there interested in farmers markets? And
we need farmers markets to accommodate them. We don't need more flea markets and swap meets. We need the farmers markets where it's all farmers. That's been kind of my mantra the whole time. Farmers only.
And like Barbara said, grow it in your backyard, you know, and that's one way people could start growing things in their backyard. And you know, every now and then you'll get one kid that really aspires to that, and his backyard could be productive, but he has to have an easy way of getting into a farmer's market to get his stuff and to give him the support that he needs to keep doing this. Yeah,
100%. And then Rich,
what I wanted to point out is that the Santa Monica market, the effect it's had on the whole Los Angeles food scene. And even when you go beyond it, I think there's chefs coming to Los Angeles to open restaurants because of the vegetables that are available through these markets, especially Santa Monica. And I think the other thing I want to bring up is these groups like Mark Peel, you know, who was a friend when he was at Campanile, the people that work with him, the people that work that go to the market now, that open their own restaurants. Joe Miller, he had people work for him. They go open their own restaurants. They come back. It grows this thing, and it grows this style of cooking, and beyond it, it's so interesting is to see what everybody buys now as far as a restaurant guy. In a long time ago, the Italian guy bought Italian, the French guy bought French. You know, they were very kind of regimented in what they were doing. And now people buy everything. They can go online, they can look it up, but I'm looking at chefs, they're buying stuff that Bill Coleman used to hand me stuff and I'd buy it and go back and try it. And all of a sudden now you can't, you know, everybody else is buying it. But it's neat. It's the excitement. It's Barbara and Bill, you had the most esoteric, you know, things over there. But you know, I'm sure at the beginning it was, you know, you would sell it, but it was a little more expensive. It was a hard sell maybe, but when people start now, these guys see things and they want to try it, and the customer is willing to eat it too. So it's, you're looking at how this market in 40 years has helped to change the way people eat in Los Angeles, and I think it's amazing. I think, and I'm so happy and I'm so blessed to have had a chance to be involved in this market. I'm just lucky, and that's why it's a long drive and everything, but I still go because I still believe. So
yeah, I appreciate all of you, and I can just say that, you know, there was food before there was a food movement or whatever, and the food's always going to be here, and we're always going to need it, and the only way we're going to get food is from our farmers. So everybody who's listening and all the work you all do, it's just this beautiful virtual circle and the connections, and they just keep getting wider and wider. And I hope it spreads, and I hope we can save our agriculture, and we can save our planet, and we can bring back small family farms.
One last thing too I'd like to comment on is a lot of that Santa Monica Farmers Market, a lot has to do with Laura Avery. You know, she was a manager, and you know, Barbara, our biggest nemesis is the managers of the farmers markets. And yeah, we had to deal with Laura, but Laura cared. You know, she cared about the consumer. This was not a job to her. You know, this was a passion to her.
That is so true.
And it showed. You know, she cared about the customers. She cared about the farmers, and she cared about, you know, the whole system. And we really appreciate, Laura, what you've done for Santa Monica and for the farmers and for the consumers.
I have been so blessed to have this job with the support of the city of Santa Monica. It couldn't have come for a better time for me in my life and my kids and my family, knowing all you and being at all of your farms and Rich's restaurants. It's just a beautiful virtuous circle, and I hope we can just keep it going. So just massive love to all of you, and let's just keep this going.
Thank
Here,
you.
here.
We have to get our hosts back in here.
want to give everybody a good air hug, right?
Yeah, very nice.
Everybody, yes. Well, I'll see you at the market, or see you at
You got it.
Rogers Garden.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Here. See you, Rich, Laura.
Thank you. Look
We
forward
got
to it.
All right, Bill, good seeing you. Yep.
Good to see you.
We should Zoom more often. Why can't we Zoom? We can Zoom. You don't need to wait.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much from my heart and from the heart of this community. To see the passion you have, we're so lucky to have you, and we are so privileged that you were able to join us and share some of these stories with our community. Thank you, Peter, Rich, and Barbara, and Bill. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Laura.
I brought a little show and tell here. You won't be able to see it, but this is what I bought at the farmer's market yesterday. And someone asked earlier, yes, figs came into the farmer's market on Saturday.
I miss figs so much.
Anyway, I am blessed by this, and we are all blessed by your endeavors over the years. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So today is, bring us back to Plates and Places. Today is our last day of our celebration of the food legacy. And the concept behind this whole week was not only to talk about the history, but to support the restaurants and therefore our farmers we had today online by buying gift cards, by going to the restaurants to give them that little push they needed after this experience we've all had together. So that was why we did this. And we're so happy that all of you were able to join. But just a reminder, we're just a few hours away. At 9 o'clock, our auction closes. There are a lot of good things available still online. And now you see on your screen how to access the auction. In your chat function on the edge or the bottom of your screen, you can view how to access the Better World platform, or you can go to www.santamonicaconservancy.org to access the auction. I wanted to highlight a few things that are left. We have a really unique experience. We have a seafood virtual cooking class, and thanks to the Santa Monica Seafood Company, if you purchase a virtual ticket to the online cooking class, Santa Monica Seafood will ship to you 3 to 4 pounds of fillet of salmon to your home with unique ingredients, and then you'll go on live virtually to learn how to prepare it. That's enough food to feed a couple families. So invite your friends over, enjoy an evening together. It's 4 to 6 on a Sunday afternoon. So check that out. We also have dinner in the garden, and that dinner is being provided by Rafael Lunetta at Lunetta's for a very select group of people, music, appetizers, wine curated by a wine expert for the evening. So also see if you can buy a seat at that table. We have hotels that we were very generously donated from many of our hotels, and a few of those are still undervalued, so you might be able to get a deal. Also, there are some wines still available. So thank you all who have already bid, and if you haven't gone on, go ahead and go on and bid. There's a few thank yous for this evening. The first one is to the city of Santa Monica. I think you could all hear that we were so lucky to have the city of Santa Monica early on support Laura in her effort to get this farmers market. And you can see there is a link, I think it'll be coming up in a minute, so that you can see how many farmers markets we do have. We have 4 right now in Santa Monica. But if you go on Santa Monica Farmers Market, the link in the city platform, you can find out exactly and go to all these different farmers markets. I also want to thank our sponsor once again, the Downtown Santa Monica 3rd Street Promenade Business Improvement District. It's their underwriting, their support that made us be able to present this program to you today. I also want to thank my production team, Adina Berheimer, Robin Tung, Steve Loper, and a special shout out to Karen Ginsburg, who actually helped us from the beginning of the idea of doing a farmers market panel to bring Laura in, bring the panelists in. So thank you, Karen. Also, thanks to my co-chair, Patty. Thank you. It's been a great week, and I know we've done really well. And also a shout out to our president, Tom Clays, who pounded the pavement to get support for this endeavor, our week-long Plates and Places. But the last thank you goes out to all of you for supporting the Santa Monica Conservancy and helping us in our mission to preserve both the architectural and the cultural heritage here in Santa Monica. So with that, the auction closes at 9, and I guess I'll see you at the farmers market. Have a great evening. Bye.